Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hi, villagers and friends. I'm Diana, the founder of ValueMeN.O.W, where we grow through connection, consistency, and community. Today's conversation is all about stillness, healing, and how we find the, sorry. Today's conversation is all about stillness, healing, and how we learn to find that pause, especially when life is full. I'm here with someone that's so special to me, my dear friend Miranda Lee, founder of Find That Pause. We met at such a meaningful time. She was covering maternity leave at my son's school, and she led a meditation workshop hosted by the Parents Association. And that was the first meditation I've ever done with somebody live and in a group. And it was the most amazing feeling I've ever felt. So I knew that I had an instant connection. And since then, I've attended one of her 3-day retreats, and she was the first founding member of Value Me Now. So this is such an honor and a privilege to be able to have this space. Miranda will talk about herself, but I'm so honored and privileged to have her part of a village. She is a certified yoga instructor, a meditation guide, and a certified coach. And her work centers on teaching resilience, self-compassion, and intentional stillness. So, Miranda, welcome to Value Me and this conversation.
Thank you so much for hosting me here, Diana. I am a grateful villager, part of your group, and also so grateful to be sharing the tools of meditation and psychology, positive psychology and mindset with you and your guests here. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's start with resilience. I know that's one of the biggest topics that you and I have always talked about. And so many women in our community are holding so much. Like, how do you
Mm.
see the pause as a path towards building resilience?
That's such a good question, and it's taken me a long time in my own life to understand that. But I'd say essentially, in a nutshell, a lot of us are running around without really taking very much time to pause in. And because of that, things are building up in us that we're not even aware of, especially like stress or just frustration, those kind of emotions. And it's only when we stop and process them and notice that they're there that we can manage them. And that's why the pause is so important for building resilience. Because if we're not aware of what's going on in our lives, what's going on in our inner world, we can't learn to manage it. And what I see is people aren't stopping, people are go, go, go. And then it's when something goes wrong, usually we have a health issue of some kind that we suddenly realize, oh my gosh, I've been ignoring this for years and years and years. And that's really why stopping and pausing is so important, I think, for building resilience.
Yes, definitely. I find myself during this transitional time in my life, starting something new and Sal and my husband just not myself not being around as much and trying to make those moments to find that pause to remind myself, that it's going to be okay, right? Because you just get overwhelmed.
100%. You're not alone. Yes.
Yes, yes. Another thing that you and I talk a lot about when it comes to interconnection is self-compassion. And that's
Mm,
something that really resonated with me when I first met you and at your retreat. And what would you say to a woman who is constantly hard on herself and feels
mm.
disconnected with her worth in all aspects of their life? Because there's so many different things that we're working on that could be we could feel disconnected.
Yeah, I know. Self-compassion is definitely, I always say in my work, really, all paths lead to self-compassion. Where when I'm working with someone, because I work a lot with clients in cancer recovery or with chronic pain issues, health issues, or going through really big life transitions like divorce or, fertility treatment, those kind of big life-changing experiences. Honestly, I can't think of anyone I've worked with who hasn't needed more self-compassion. It seems to be something that's missing from so many of our lives. And there's a lot of reasons for it. I think one of the things is really that there's a cultural issue with giving ourselves the care that we give others. Most of us have been brought up to kind of give care out, but s- we don't grow up with the idea that we have to give it in order to give it out. That's another reason why a lot of people are getting burnt out or need the resilience tools. Everything comes together. And we've got a lot of people giving out, giving out, giving out, not giving in because they feel guilty about giving it to themselves, or they just don't know that that's something that they should be doing. They don't know the tools of how to give themselves self-compassion, um, or they don't give themselves permission for it. And that's really why it's so important. Yeah.
That, first of all, your voice and the laugh too. It's always the voice and the laugh.
I'm so lucky with this voice, right? I have this British accent. I
It's
don't know, it's
soothing.
the tone, it's the cadence. It seems to resonate with people. It's very relaxing. So I'm like,
I think you should add like voice coaching. I feel like I need to lower, but I know my voice is my superpower too, because the way, so I have self-compassion with myself. When you were speaking about that, what resonated with me is when I had my heart, diagnosis.
mm,
Had to I had to pause. I really
mm,
had to pause, and I knew the effect that that had in my household because they were so used to always having me at a certain energy and with a certain smile, and I had to really like have some self-compassion and give myself that space to not have to be on for other people. If I don't know if that resonates with other people, because that's where I feel like where self-compassion for me and with inner connection is like like forgiving myself for not having to be that version of myself that I was.
absolutely. It's a big learning curve. I mean, I just remember when I was starting to practice self-compassion, which is a practice, and
Mhm.
perhaps we could do one during this call. Um, I was starting to practice this, and I suddenly realized, it was during the pandemic, and my son really liked this particular takeout food, and I'd said I'd go and get him, and I was absolutely exhausted at the end of the day. And I was like, and because I was practicing self-compassion, I was like, I don't have the energy to go out. I really don't. Like, and I know I'm going to disappoint him, and it seems such a small thing to do. I should just go. But I knew what would happen afterwards would I'd be so tired, I'd be a bit resentful, I'd be frustrated that I didn't have more energy. All the things would come up. And so you know what, Diana? I didn't go. And I said to him, I'm so sorry. I know. And I'm like, I know, it's
You know why?
not.
Because the guilt, because you knew you
Yes.
guilt, resentment, and you don't even know how these emotions pop up.
And I felt those emotions and I sat with them and I realized I'd made the right decision for me. Now he was upset, but he could have that food the next day, which of course we did.
Mhm.
And the result was I had more energy. And I just say that as a little story to illustrate that sometimes self-compassion is not doing things for those people that you love, and that it's okay and that you give yourself that permission. Because, if you're sick and you really don't have the energy, self-compassion is giving yourself that energy. So the long term, you will heal because so much of healing is in resting and giving yourself permission to not do things. In the mind as well. Stop making those to-do lists as well as taking the actions.
That's
So how does that settle for you?
You know what? Because you're not taught how to rest. You're not taught self-compassion. And it was you said cultural, and that's so true because
Mhm.
it wasn't until I met like my husband's family that they like that to learn how to rest, and that rest is part of self-care as well. And my son kind of gave me a little aha moment as well when he was like, "Well, I changed my mind," and I was like, "Well, you have a commitment." He's like, "Yeah, but I could change my mind." I was like, "Hmm." That's very interesting. That's self-compassionate like, because forgave himself already for changing his mind and he moved on.
Yes. And I have to say, I think there's a gender conditioning here. I think
Listen, that's a whole other topic that we could speak to hours.
yeah, because as caregivers, I think women are conditioned give, give, give.
Yes.
But at some point we can't because we burn out and then we
Yeah,
don't have anything more to give and
exactly.
everybody suffers. So it's a careful balance, but it's completely life transformative,
Oh,
um,
definitely,
and
definitely.
very healing. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's one of my biggest aha moments when it came to self-compassion. Right, there's this little story that you've told me twice because I've been very great blessed to be able to go to one of your retreats. And talk to me about when was your first pause? Like when did you find the pause?
Uh,
That this is because I remember this story every time I bought myself a dahlia flower and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be my pause. Like Miranda told me I have to find my pause. So I'll send you a picture of it later.
yeah. So I was not someone who paused previously in my life, and I had a very full-on career. I was working in advertising. I was running teams around the world, and then I had kids.
Mhm.
Now I had always had a yoga practice because I started practicing when I was a teen. But when I was trying to combine this full-on career and the and small children, it was just a very complicated, difficult time for me because I realized that basically I couldn't do both. That
Yeah.
was just my personal experience of it. It just did not work for me. And so as I was trying to navigate this, there was one morning, and we both live in New Jersey, harsh winters.
Mhm.
I had to get a toddler and a baby into their snowsuits, and which is like dressing a monkey if you haven't tried it, and um, takes a long time, much longer than you want. And we were rushing now because I had to drop them off at daycare to come back to start work for the day. And so I was trying to think about all the work stuff whilst dressing them in their suits and getting them into the car seats. And by the time I got them into their car seats, honestly, I thought I'd finished work for the day. I was just exhausted. And I had this moment of complete overwhelm of like, I just don't know how I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
And I think most people can resonate with that feeling. It might not be for the same circumstances. And, and I think it's from the grace of God or higher power, whatever you want to call it, or just deep consciousness. I just knew I needed to take a pause. And of course, at that time, I didn't call it that, but I just took a breath. And I was like, no, you still need to take more pause,
More.
more. So I walked around my car and I did what I now call the five senses meditation. But at the time, I just looked at the sky and probably heard the birds singing and just thought, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And by the time I got back to my car, the driver's side of the car, I felt a bit better. I felt enough that I could manage with dropping them off and coming back for work. And it was the start of like, it was a tiny aha moment, but in fact, it's a huge aha moment because I realized this is the way through this overwhelm. You need to take a pause at that moment. And so I started doing that, literally walking around my car. I think my neighbors must have thought I was crazy. But it started me integrating these very small moments of mindfulness into my day-to-day life, and it helped me tremendously as I transitioned out of that season of my life into a new one.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. I'm hearing like the connection, the interconnection, which is like our first pillar. And then I'm hearing consistency. Like once you find that interconnection of what works for you and who you are, then like you find those habits that help you, right? Like, so how are you helping women? What programs do you have that could give women the ability to find that pause and connect with themselves?
Yeah, that's a really good point because consistency is key with what I teach. And it has to be consistency that fits with your life, that feels good to you. Like, I think a lot of people think that meditation is sitting up a mountain for 20 minutes every day. For most of us, all of us probably listening, that's just not going to be possible. Like, but we can take a walk around the car or the equivalent.
Yeah.
And what I do is I have a program, an online program, it's called Find Your Pause. It's an 8-week program where I teach people how to find their pause that fits with their life in a way that feels good to them. Because if you're just trying to meditate because you understand all the benefits, but it doesn't feel good to you, like the inner critic is coming up and telling you how awful you are at this all the time, it's simply not going to be something that you want to do. You're not going to be consistent with it. So I work with people, their mindset, and finding ways for them to fit meditation into their life. And it takes about 8 weeks. We do it in a great group because you do need to have some accountability at the start. It's like anything. It's like going to a gym class. It's really good to have a buddy to do it with at first. And then after 8 weeks, you've kind of got it. And then you can carry on, come on retreat with me, use some of my meditations that you'll have got from the program. So that's really what I like to, how I like to work with other women, um, as well as working one-on-one if people have specific concerns that they're working with. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that your community is similar to what Value Me values and how we add value to each other. And partnering with somebody like you and being consistent and finding who yourself is and what your pause is to me resonates with clearing that noise, like
Mm.
every day, I know we use social media to promote our business and we use social media for entertainment, but people don't realize how much we're absorbing all of these different methods or all of people's philosophies and physiology, people just reposting all this stuff. So just finding who you really are and curating your social media or curating your community to the people that are aligned to your values is what your community is, what Value Me is about, and helping women and men, right? Because your community is for both, finding what their inner self is, right? I think that that's pretty much what we're all trying to find, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Diana. Like, I think we live in a very noisy world, right?
Mhm.
And yet, the most important relationship we're ever going to have is with ourselves.
Mm. Oh,
And we can lose sight of that in the noise of the external world. And also, it can feel uncomfortable just because we're not used to it to come inside and listen to what's going on inside. So we can sometimes just ignore it. But I can tell you from personal experience and also my students that when you do find that connection within to yourself, it's utterly transformative for the better. It's where you really know yourself, you know who you are and who you want to be and how to live the life that's right for you, right? Because that's not always what we see from other people. It's very individual what's right for us. And
yeah.
we don't really know that unless we come within. Yeah.
Yes. No, definitely, definitely. And that's one of the things that I love about your retreats that by day two, I've I felt like a 10-year-old, like my son, like he knows himself so well. Like because he doesn't have any other, he's just our values. He's himself and whatever mom and dad and our values. So like by day two of your retreat, I felt so like unplugged to the rest of the world and just so in tuned, like with like I wish I could do it every weekend. Like
Yeah, sometimes we need to get away. That's why I love teaching retreats because sometimes it's really useful to get away from everyday noise.
yes,
Um,
no, definitely, definitely.
everyday life, I should have said, everyday noise too. And have some space for yourself
Mhm.
in a supportive and safe environment to do that work. Yeah.
No, definitely. What is one of your habits besides that pause, or something that you could share with us that we could do today, that we could start practicing, that could really kind of like reset it? Because I know that before your story, I used to walk around the island in my kitchen, and then I
Oh,
realized
you're
but the island I felt like was a hamster wheel of thoughts. So it wasn't until we did the mindful walking that I was like, well, wait
uh,
a second. Like I'm actually not thinking as I'm walking. I used to think, do you know what I mean? It was more of like a racing walk to get those racing thoughts out until I took like, see, that's why it's so important to practice these things.
well, it is a practice for sure. And also it's a gift to have a racing mind, by the way. Because then you've got something to
We
work
have to
with.
love all of ourselves.
No, it's true.
It's true.
Because
It's my superpower.
frankly, everybody's mind is a racing horse. That's what the yogis call it. And the more racing, the more you've got to work with.
Yeah,
So it's actually it is a superpower. It's really a wonderful thing. And so I could do a practice on just coming back to the present now. And then I thought maybe I'll just end with a little moment of self-compassion. Does that work for you?
I love that. Yeah,
Okay. So
that's
if you're sitting really close to the screen, I'm
okay.
just going to invite you to sit a little bit further back. So
Okay.
the first thing, it's very interesting. The mind and the body work together. So if we've got a racing mind, work with the body to start with and see if that can help you just to bring some stillness to the mind. And so what you could do is you could just place your feet on the ground. And by that, I mean really feel that big toe on the ground. Can you press that in?
Mhm.
And then go through each of the toes and see if you can find the end of the toe and press that into the ground. Not hard, just a little bit, just to feel that connection, that groundedness there. And then you can just circle around the feet and the heels. And then bring that sense of connection and groundedness and almost like you're in your body up through your feet into your lower legs, your knees, up into your thighs. And then find the places of the thighs that are really connected to the seat and see if both of your sit bones are on the seat because oftentimes one is slightly up more than the other. So just see if you can rejig that. And oftentimes when we've got that kind of grounded support in our lower body, what happens is we start to sit up a little bit more. It just sort of happens naturally. So just start to notice if that's happening for you. And then start to notice if your chest is open and wide. Maybe you can feel your collarbone is spread a little bit wider. Maybe your shoulders have just descended down a little bit. So that's enough, really, to ground the body oftentimes, okay? But if you want a little bit more, just inviting you to bring your attention to the breath. And by that, I mean, what's telling you that you're breathing in right now? Is there any movement in the body that tells you that? And is there anything that tells you you're breathing out right now? Sometimes you can feel it just around the nostrils or the top of the lip. There's a bit of air exchange. Sometimes you can feel the rib cage lifting and falling. And sometimes you can feel the belly. Now, if you're new to this practice, you might have thought, oh, I'm not doing this right. And this is one time in your life where you never have to think that. There's no judgment here. There only is trying to do it. There's no right way or wrong way to do this. Just take a moment. Just notice how it feels just to breathe. And then I'm going to invite you to finish with me with some self-compassion. We talked about that earlier. So self-compassion is a felt sense in the body. How do you feel compassion to yourself? So I like to do this practice with one hand on my heart. You can try that out, see if it's comfortable to you. And the way that this practice works, the traditional practice that's thousands of years old, you just say some phrases that feel good to say to yourself. I'm going to give you the traditional ones I was taught, but you can change them in any way that feels good to you. And the first one is so simple. May I be kind to myself. May I be kind to myself. May I be healthy in my mind and my body. May I be healthy in my mind and my body. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I live with ease. May I live with ease. And just invite you to notice what's happening in your body when you say these phrases. Maybe there's a little bit of warmth under the hand on your chest, feeling of expansion, feeling of lightness, or none of those things, right? It's okay, no judgment. Whatever happens is right. And just invite you to take another deep breath in and out, and we'll release the practice. But just for a moment longer, just keep your eyes closed if they're closed, or bring your hands up, a nice warm rub, and then just place your hands over your face and feel the sensation of the warmth from the hands on the face. And just ask yourself, do I feel any different now from that practice? A little bit more settled in my mind, a little bit more grounded, perhaps even a little bit more self-compassionate. And do I want to bring any of this into my own daily life? And that's it. Bringing your hands down, coming back. And thank you so much for practicing with me.
Thank you. Thank you, Miranda. I feel, I'll tell you exactly what I feel. I feel my legs grounded, literally. Like,
Yeah, and
we've been sitting here for the past, 20, 25 minutes, and you would think that I know that I'm sitting, but it wasn't until I took this pause to really feel that. Like, thank you.
you're so
I
welcome.
really appreciate it. I'm thank you for taking this time, for being part of Value Me Now. I know this Sunday you have your programs coming up. I might have to look into that 8-week program because I feel like I need this weekly. Like I know we have interconnection and we have this relationship, but just physically doing it and being part of it and having that consistency just really brings it together. I have my morning practice, but this is a different level of it. And I'm looking forward to Sunday, June 8th. You're going to lead our first workshop with one of our founding members, and that'll be in Fort Lee at Impact Fit Group Fitness at 5 o'clock. Anything else, Miranda, that you want to leave our community with?
No, just keep practicing, investigate it. Start today with the moment and carry on. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Miranda, for this rich conversation and for reminding us that, we have all the tools that we need with ourselves to find that pause. And there's many communities that are available to find like-minded people and with the same mindset as just going out there. And once you know yourself, then you attract those people. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to Sunday, and I will talk to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.